I want to thank Yestermorrow for inviting me back. It's always great to get out of the shop. I only teach selectively here in one place, and I teach in Indianapolis, and I head the Chippendale School of Furniture's veneer department in Scotland. I go there once a year. I actually just got back from Brazil for private lessons, so that was quite nice. But I love here. I get energized. I really enjoy teaching. And the students I get as inspired, hopefully I inspire the students too, but it's really great to be back. So, let's see if I can, work this. This is the first challenge, right? The human touch, okay. I'm going to give you just a brief history of what I do. Dan did a pretty good job, but I've been a professional artist since age 16, so that's like 35 plus. I'm going to date myself now, I don't know how old I am, but in any event, all my life, that's all I've ever done is art. I went to Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, obviously, and have a design degree with a sculpture minor. I didn't really get into woodworking until after I graduated. I just fell in love with veneer and how they figured veneer. So I approached furniture making not from a traditional standpoint, from more of a sculptural standpoint. These are just a whole variety of samplings of my work. And at one point, I had a 10,000 square foot shop, up to 22 employees, and then I found myself sitting behind a computer, on a computer all day long, going, man, I'm a fine woodworker. And started questioning that, that was some of the first times, like, okay, what's going on here? I obviously had to become a businessman, I had to, have payroll and overhead and feed my family. And it kind of, it started, these questions started coming into mind. And as a businessman, I would use technology to increase production, I'm always looking at the bottom line, so on and so forth. So that really came to the question of craftsmanship. Me sitting behind a desk punching buttons, does that make me a craftsman? Okay. So again, these are just examples. This is veneer lighting, LED lighting, a project actually just completed. So I started wondering, and it seems that just recently, within the last 5 years, technology has now become accessible, and the costs have come down, where there are craftsmen using technology. And is that cheating? Right? Are you a craftsman if you're pressing buttons? Okay? And I found myself questioning that. I was represented in maybe 30 plus galleries across the country and all national shows, and people would come up and say, oh, did you make this? And of course I would say yes, but the reality is at that level, when I was making up to I think 350 pieces a year with 10, 15 employees. Price range from $100 to $125,000 commissions. The reality is I didn't make every single piece. Okay, I would come down, I would inspect it, maybe spray some polish on it, and I would sign it. And I started feeling, well, is that cheating? Am I still a craftsman? At the time, I felt that I wasn't lying because I developed the pieces, not only to design them, I usually would make a prototype and train my employees to make them. And they were still made by hand. So I thought that was okay. But as I asked myself these questions, I said, okay, let's back up. What is technology, right? The use of technology, well, of course it's maybe an oxymoron if I go to Wikipedia. But basically, these are the definitions. I'm not going to read them all, but it's basically application of knowledge or using advanced tools. Okay? Great. I could relate to that. But then I started thinking, well, if I look back, what's the oldest artwork that I could find? And some of these pieces, for example, even the cave paintings, well, they used technology, they used blowpipes, right? Now that's technology for them at the time, so that was okay, but where do you draw the line between the use of technology and sort of a craftsman, if you will? are we getting help? Using advanced knowledge. That's also considered technology today. Using, math to help you be better than the next guy, or become perfect. Okay, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So it dawned on me, it seems that a child is probably innocent, and just finger painting seemed to be the only thing that was a creative work that without any use of technology. That's probably the most innocent creation you can come upon without, and I had a little fun with that. So then I started thinking, okay, what is craftsmanship? Okay, there is certainly a difference between designers and craftsmen, and this is where I think as a lot of my students are trying to figure out, you become a businessman and a designer and press a button, or are you interested in the true craftsmanship of the product? And I'm happy to say that Yestermorrow, that's Yestermorrow embraces that. I think it's important that you know at least how to make these things by hand, and then if you utilize technology, that's all the better. So basically, I define craftsmanship as something made by hand. Okay, but there is a difference between art versus craft, right? And this line gets blurred. There are craftsmen that create artistic craft, but true craftsmen, I think, really make something that's functional. Okay. So I started looking back and saying, okay, let's stop finger painting, and what's the first use of cheating, if you will. So camera Obscura by Vermeer. This is a method where kind of early Photoshop, if you will. They drill a hole through a wall, and I took a mirror, and it takes the image and projects it onto a canvas, and he basically painted over that. And this was very, very top secret. No one knew he was doing this. So the question is he cheating? Okay? Is he using technology and he's just executing this like paint by numbers kind of thing? Now, granted, I think this is okay because there's a little skill of mixing paint, getting the values of the hues and so on and so forth, but you got to admit there's something there, and he wasn't telling anybody, right? Everybody said, wow, your proportions, you nailed the cityscape. Okay, so is he less of a craftsman? Is he, by not divulging his technique, is he deceiving the public? Okay, so because these are questions I ask myself all the time, and we'll get it. I'll show you some examples of that later. Where if the public thinks you've done it all by hand, is there some deception there? And does the public care? Right? And I think we are losing touch because, as I said, technology is becoming so accessible. You can buy little CNC machines and work out of your basement and create beautifully crafted pieces of work, carved and veneered and what have you. But you're not a craftsman, in my opinion. You might be a great designer and a good computer programmer, and I think this is where we are at a dividing point right now. And we have to come to terms with our own, ethics, if you will, of what makes you a craftsman and how can you call yourself a craftsman. Other examples. This is a good friend of mine. This is all airbrushed. Okay, so he airbrushes photographic quality paintings, large paintings. Now he could have just taken this out of a photograph. And do we even know? It's so good that we don't even know, and does it matter? But I think that as artists and craftsmen, we're trying to make something perfect, right? Isn't that true? We all want to make that perfect dovetail. We don't want to see any mistakes. So we're striving to become perfect, hence we then use technology to help us there. But at some point, does the technology take over and we're not even there's no soul to it, there's no interaction. Other examples are, this is a good friend of mine who draws this, and this is the perfect one. She hand draws in pen and ink. Now pen and ink drawing is a tough thing to do because you make a mistake, it's there. And she makes mistakes. And then she goes back in and she scans it, photoshops, and erases her mistakes. And when I bought this piece off her, she goes, well, do you want the original or do you want the printed, perfect one? And I'm like, I want the original. I don't want a copy. I don't want. And she is a very talented young woman, but she thought that the printed version, the corrected version, was the finished piece, was the one that she wanted to sell, because those imperfections were not acceptable to her. Right?
Where are the imperfections?
Well, they're not in here. There were a couple lines down here, and just little. And actually, what I did is it's hanging on my bathroom wall. It's called Death Match. I love it. And I have this is the perfect one, and then you turn it over. I show the original, but if you turn the frame over, you can see the printed one. So I don't look. I can't tell you right now. I don't study it too often, but. It's just interesting, and she's a young woman now in her late 20s, I think, so I don't know if the younger generation, has a different mindset than I do. I'm, old school. But now she's an illustrator, and now she does everything. This is a painting of hers. This is completely done in Photoshop. So now I'm starting to say, okay, what's going on here? You're trying to reach perfection, and if you make a mistake, you can easily erase it. But to her credit, she's still doing it by hand. So the Photoshop and the technology she still has her hand on. So I'm okay with that. There's still a hand to medium, if you will. I would argue that you're losing the sense of the texture of the paint and touching the canvas and the impression and the spontaneous changes that you make. And for me, that's very important as far as a craftsman and an artist, to have that opportunity to make those changes. Now, she would argue, well, hey, I just got a layer, I can just delete and I can make changes all day long. So, this is right on the line for me. But we are striving for perfection as craftsmen. And, I think we're losing something, because there are many cultures that intentionally put in flaws in their work because God is perfect, and I'm not going to get into that debate, but that is their belief. So they actually, even though they have the ability to weave a perfect carpet, they intentionally make something imperfect. They'll weave rugs and tie that one wrong knot because they don't want to be perfect, right? So when you're making your table, just take a hatchet and just, well, I say, I should have this in here. Gary Knox-Bennett, a good friend of mine out west, he's known for, he made a very traditional grandfather clock, beautifully, and then he took a nail, put a nail and nailed the nail right in the front, bent it over and mashed it. Very, very famous piece. I should add that to this. So that was great. And even in architecture you see that, because I threw this kind of in here, architecture where you're going to put a nail in there, but no, what they are doing, they're creating asymmetry intentionally to kind of throw things off. I still think asymmetry, I'm an asymmetric person, so I still think you can have perfect asymmetry. So I would argue that it's not a good example. But of course, this isn't a good example of imperfection. But again, this is clearly designed. So I threw some architecture in there for the architectural students here. But this is all done with the use of computers, okay, and technology. I don't think this could be done, 50 years ago. Maybe, I guess it'd just be slower. You couldn't figure this all out. So now we get in today's world, and this is where I think with technology is becoming so accessible that we have crossed that line, and I think we are losing touch with what true craftsmanship is. It is getting very scary. So for example, this is a CNC, computer numerically controlled machines. There's a whole variety of them. This is wood that's been carved, all by a machine. Okay, now I could probably carve that by hand. So does it matter if I do the carving or does a machine do a carving? Does it matter? And that's a question that I am struggling with, and we'll get into the examples because I do use CNC machinery to help my bottom line. There's 3D printing now, right? And 3D printing can create things that we can't actually create. This isn't a very good example, but you could create forms inside of forms that you couldn't physically carve. Okay, but and these are now perfect, right? Geometrically speaking. This is actually a sugar cube. So this is a 3D printed sugar cube, right? I don't know if you can physically make that. So I love this stuff. I think this is really cool. But I question, what's the title? Does the title matter? You know, handcrafted sugar cube. Well, is it handcrafted? Not really. There's ceramicists who carve porcelain here, an example, and he is creating perfection. So the question now, what's worth more, or what has a better intrinsic value, or does it matter? Could we have a machine print this thing out, or have you spend, 100 hours hand carving this thing, and are they the same? Does it really matter? Right? And I think we're at a point where it does matter, because I'm seeing more and more of this stuff, and people are claiming it as handmade, handcrafted, and it's not. This is beautiful work, and he's striving for perfection, and he reaches it. But now he could probably just press a button and do the same thing, and sit back and watch it being carved. So these are all questions, and I don't have the answer for everybody, only for myself. Other examples are, this is a Wendell Castle. I had the privilege of running his studio for a while. This is a scan of his face that we did, and it's carved by CNC. So now you can scan people, have it carved out. So here's a machine carve, and this is a hand carving. What's the, where do we draw the line between that? So for me, it's, as a craftsman, with all the CNC, as I mentioned before, you're losing the sensitivity to the material. Okay, the opportunity to make changes in real time when you're in the moment in the creation and understanding that material. This is actually a piece that I own. A friend of mine, she takes porcelain and understands porcelain so well that she hand carves all this, and it's turned. She relieves it, and then she fires it, and just by intuition, she knows right when to stop the firing, because these start collapsing. And a machine, maybe a machine can figure that out, I don't know. But these are the things that this is unpredictable. Everyone is different. Okay, it's a beautiful piece. But she has a true understanding of her medium and her material. She knows how far to push it. In my class, we're talking about, you don't know where the line is until you cross it, right? How thin can a chair leg be? Well, you don't know until you make one that breaks, and then you know. And then in our class, we just move the line. We figure out how to move the line. But finding that line is something that you need to understand as a craftsman. You need to really have a relationship with your material. Here's a vase of my own. This is a carved with a chainsaw. This is a large vase. And I don't pre-design it. I kind of visualize it on a log, and I start carving, and I just go with the flow. When the grain moves, I just kind of go with it. And I really enjoy this process of allowing me to react to the material as I'm working. And I would strongly argue that these people who are using CNCs don't have that. And something is being lost. The other pieces, so these other pieces of mine, this is all hand-carved trompe-l'oeil solid wood. Again, I use studies, and I could carve. I take a fabric and I study fabric, and I could carve exactly how it, or I could use a computer to scan it. But I just understand what the fabric wants to do, and then I just carve this, and I just go with it. And even in my inlay work, these are inlay gems. There are patterns here, but it's kind of mosaic, and I'm just kind of running with it. I don't want it to be perfect. I want you to know that it was made by hand. This was actually inspired by the King Tut tour that came around, and all the hand inlaid gems. I mean, that's all done, with rocks and, some guy sitting there holding a stick between his toes and chiseling away. I imagine. I don't really know how they did it, but I love that old stuff. It's so intricate, and these guys had nothing to work with. They didn't, granted they had technology. They probably had the most advanced tool known to man, which might have been bronze, but they managed to get it done. But you can tell it's made by hand, and that's what I really appreciate. Here's some of the very early CNC work. This is a chair. I saw this in Paris. It's in the Pompidou. This is a section of a table. So they have a table on one side and a table on the other, and then the computer morphed the two together. So this is one of the very early pieces, examples of the use of CNC and carving and a computer to create the form. So he may have selected this side and the other side, but the computer morphed the form and he had nothing to do with that. Now that's all cool and groovy, but I think I wouldn't consider this craftsmanship. And this is the argument that we can have. We can take it even a step further. These are steel furniture designed and fabricated all by machine. I'm sure that there's a computer programmer who knows nothing about, welding, or maybe he does, but he programs some random number generator and probably puts in some parameters. But this was designed completely by a computer, and there's a machine that spits out wire and welds it together as it makes it. It just makes these pieces of sculpture, or I think these are benches actually. Okay, so now we're getting to the realm. This is definitely not craftsmanship, at least I would consider it. Now maybe he comes back and hand sands it and polishes it, which then says, okay, what's the percentage of technology can I use? If I use 99% technology and I come there and do my, my blessing and kiss, and I, give a little polishing and sign my name to it, is it handmade? Okay, where is that line between handmade? That's a big question for me. And this is a friend of Justin's. I just threw this in here last night. He makes these by hands, but he does use the computer to help generate the forms. These are benches. This is some of the stuff we're doing down in the class. So I have no problem using technology to aid me in my pursuit to create forms, because these would be very difficult to sort of visualize. You could probably hand carve them, but it spits out cross sections to make the mold so we can bend the stuff around. But he's still steam bending and creating all these by hand. So this is handmade as far as I'm concerned. So this is a good example of the use of technology to advance your craft, but you're still doing it handmade. There are some now, these are probably some of the more famous woodworkers, or now they're designers. So woodworkers, in fact, a lot of woodworkers or craftsmen don't want to be considered craft from a number standpoint. They want to be designers. And that's strictly a marketing ploy, because they can get a higher number. But Mark Newsom, he doesn't make it. He designs it, and he has this whole team of craftsmen who make it. So is he a craftsman, or is he just a designer, and the craftsmen are the craftsmen, right? But these chairs, all these people here, their pieces, including Wendell Castle's, we're talking chairs start at $50,000, $250,000. They're collectibles, $1 million a piece on the secondary market. So again, here's some of my work. I use technology. So there's a computer-aided generation, great sales tool, nothing wrong with that. I design in the computer. I use it to change colors. I think you're all doing that in SketchUp. I think I saw some SketchUp people with your house that you're building. That's fine, but I still make it by hand. But one thing I'm starting to toy with, I design furniture, and I even put it in my penthouse in Paris, right? I haven't yet made this piece. Do I need to? It's done, as far as I'm concerned. And this is a reality. There's something about SketchUp. I love working with SketchUp. I make the piece, but I actually then lose the desire to actually create it. I've already made it virtually. So do I need to make the piece? Okay? And it is affecting how I think and work. And so I just show this, and there's some deceiving here. I've actually had people, and this isn't a very good one, but I've had other web designers, go to my website and grab like this image and put it on and say, oh, Scott Grove's work. And I call them up, whoa, stop the presses, this is not real. Oh, really? I mean, the fabric's all in there. This is not a real piece of furniture. You got to take that down. I mean, I won't allow that. I don't want to be misrepresented. I probably need a watermark here saying filtered photograph or digitally enhanced or what have you. But the technology is affecting how I approach my work. I mean, it's good, but then, as I said, this is a perfect example of this bench I haven't made. I don't know if I ever will. I mean, I use a sales tool, and maybe someone will commission me to do it, but I've lost the desire. I think part of the creation of making is seeing what it's going to look like when you're done. You're not really sure. You got your little model, right? When you're making your house, you guys have already made the house in balsa wood and foam core. Why make it? You already know what it's going to look like. So, having fun there. Other pieces of work now, the use of technology. I used to carve all my texture. This is carved wood, and I copper coated, and I put a variety of patinas, and I also incorporate quilted maple and semi-precious gems and what have you. But I used to carve everything by hand. That was great, but that's really taxing. That takes a long time, and carpal tunnel and the whole 9 yards. So consequently, when I then designed a cutting tool. This is a very serious cutter that I modified from a previous design, and I mount on a grinder, and allows me to grind these things. So I'm still doing it by hand, but I'm using a little technology to speed things up. Let me go back to this one. I now, in fact, have these carved on a CNC. Okay, but that's just the panels. And I still make and do everything else. But one thing that I did do is the programmer said, oh, well, the computer can create the pattern. Don't worry about it. We'll just press the button, you tell them how big you want these divots. And I was like, no. I want to go into the computer and I want to draw all the individual cuts. And he goes, are you crazy? This is you're going to spend hours. I mean, thousands of these little dots placed in test panels, and then you got to find the really odd-looking one and erase that. But a computer will make it totally random. But if it's too consistently random, then it's consistently random, right? And then it looks like the computer consistently randomly made this piece. I want random, okay? I want that human touch. I want those variations in there that tells you that it's been made by hand, okay? Here's Wendell Castle. He has a robot that does a lot of his carving now. What he does, though, is he takes a model. He will make the model. Now, the guy's 80 plus years old, so I don't know, and he's got a group of guys who can carve, but he's now making the models by hand, okay, scanning them in, blowing them up, and then the machine carves it out. So that's right on the edge, okay, but there are imperfections, though they're not perfect curves. There's still variations in there, because he's not trying to make it perfect. He wants the human hand in there, so I respect him for that. So, automation, right? As we start using automation, does it make sense? From a dollar standpoint, it does. Bottom line, I can knock this stuff out. But at what point are you losing the soul of the piece? Here's another example. One of the very first sculptures I worked on, Clement Meadmore. And a lot of these sculptors do this. And these are old guys. They make a model this big, and then all I have to decide is how big they want it, and they ship it off to the fabricator. So I work for a fabricator. This is actually one of the large sculptures I worked on. And he comes in and he welds his name into it, and he never, that's all he does. So there's coming back to that question. And many people work this way. So don't be fooled. Don't pretend, oh, I own and he made it. But the fact that he oversaw it, I think, is okay. And it was still made by hand. I mean, do you think Michelangelo carved David? He had a crew of guys carving, at least roughing it in. I'm sure he went in there and, did some of the fine finishing. But he has a whole bunch of master craftsmen working for him. All these guys did. So this has been done throughout the ages. So don't think that, people are working solo. No one does it. These are vases that I had carved in Malaysia. Now, they're hand carved. Of course, they're probably hand carved for some 6-year-old, okay? And I paid, $6 a piece for them, right? Now, I still did my hand carving, or my copper finish on them, and sold them as handmade. They were handmade, but now this raises the question: am I making them? Are my supervised staff making them, or some child in a grass hut making them? Where's the line of an acceptable handmade piece of craft, right? And again, this is, I'm seeing a lot of this. I have won a number of Veneer Tech Challenge Awards. This is an international veneer award. And one guy, it wasn't this guy, you know, this, every year one guy wins for his marquetry, but it's all CNC'd or laser cut out. And I've had some friends call and say, wait, you know this guy? And they said, we don't care. The rules are just working with veneer. We're not talking about craftsmanship, handmade, and they just use the veneer and said, okay, fine, that's good. But you see more and more of this, is that with a little Dremel tool and a desktop machine, this is all cut out and put together. And in my opinion, they're not craftsmen. Now they are hand assembling, but you know, for me, that there's a line there that they've crossed as far as this is not handcrafted veneer work. I'm happy to say that my veneer work, I've created these spirals which cannot, and this is only by pure accident, it wasn't intentional, cannot be done by a laser or a CNC because I'm lining up the sapwood, and that sapwood is random and spontaneous. So this is probably 100 pieces of veneer all seamed together, and I hand line up all this, and it's all spontaneous. I start with a concept and kind of run with it. You know, I want to do an interlocking spiral. This was done for a couple that wanted me to create a piece about relationships, right? So this is a piece, it's burled walnut on a silver leaf case, and there's 16 full pull-out drawers and velvet lined. It was a buffet for the dining room, but CNC could not do that. And I'm happy that my work is ended in that direction, that I'm not relying on CNC, because since I've now scaled down, it's just me and a couple interns, and I work on custom pieces. So I think that's it. So there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just something that I think we as craftsmen, we as the public, have to make a decision, or at least be aware of what's going on, and are we losing touch of traditional craftsmen these days? Are you going to call yourself a craftsman or a designer? Or does it matter? And is a computer and a CNC, is this just a new medium that pushing keys is acceptable? It certainly is. We're seeing it, but these are just more, I think I'm raising more questions than answers, but I think it's an interesting topic